There is an uncomfortable detail most people overlook. Not everything moving through the sky has been clearly identified. Not because radar failed or witnesses were careless, but because there are moments when the sky itself behaves in ways we do not expect. Thousands of people have looked up at the same time and reported seeing something that should not have been there. Trained pilots have described objects they could not match to any known aircraft, while advanced radar systems detected targets that appeared, vanished, and returned where empty air was supposed to be. These events did not happen on the margins of history. They occurred above crowded cities and restricted airspace, were recorded and debated, and yet remain unresolved, leaving one quiet question behind. What did we actually witness?
Number 1. The Phoenix Lights event. The Phoenix Lights were reported in 1997, when thousands of residents across Arizona described a massive formation of lights moving slowly across the night sky. According to witnesses, the lights appeared arranged in a wide V-shaped pattern, passing silently overhead for several minutes. Observations came from civilians, police officers, and trained pilots, covering a broad geographic area and creating one of the most widely witnessed aerial events in U.S. history. Many witnesses stated that the lights seemed connected, giving the impression of a single enormous object rather than separate aircraft. Others reported the lights blinking out sequentially, while some described a solid dark shape blocking out stars behind it. Video recordings captured portions of the event, though image quality and limited angles prevented clear measurement of size or distance. Explanations offered in later years included military flares, aircraft formations, and atmospheric effects. While flares accounted for some later sightings, critics argue they did not fully explain earlier reports involving structured movement and extended silence. Differences in timing and perspective further complicated attempts at a unified explanation. The Phoenix Lights remain a subject of ongoing debate and analysis. The event raises questions about how large-scale eyewitness reports are interpreted and why certain details remain unresolved. No definitive conclusion has been reached, and the phenomenon continues to be classified as unexplained.
Number 2. The Tic Tac observation. The USS Nimitz incident was reported in 2004 when U.S. Navy pilots training off the coast of California encountered an unidentified aerial object, later described as resembling a smooth, white tic-tac. According to witnesses, the object was observed visually by pilots and tracked by advanced radar systems aboard nearby naval vessels. It appeared to maneuver rapidly, descending from high altitude to near sea level in a short time. Pilots reported that the object showed no visible wings, exhaust, or propulsion, and responded to their presence by accelerating away. Radar operators separately detected unusual returns that suggested abrupt changes in speed and direction. These observations came from multiple platforms, including aircraft sensors and ship-based radar, which made the event difficult to dismiss as a single equipment error. Alternative explanations have been proposed, including sensor misinterpretation, classified test aircraft, or atmospheric effects. Some researchers suggest limitations in radar resolution or data fusion could produce misleading tracks. However, these explanations have not fully accounted for the consistency between pilot testimony and radar data recorded during the encounter. The incident later entered public discussion through official acknowledgments and released reports. Despite extensive analysis, the nature of the object has not been officially explained. The event raises questions about how modern detection systems interpret rare aerial phenomena. No definitive conclusion has been reached, and the observation remains unexplained.
Number 3. Lights in Rendlesham Forest.
The Rendlesham Forest incident was reported in 1980 when U.S. military personnel stationed at an airbase in Suffolk, England, described unusual lights appearing in nearby woodland over several nights. According to witnesses, the lights moved between trees, changed color, and at times appeared to descend toward the forest floor. The reports came from trained service members tasked with security duties, lending the event added attention. Some accounts describe close-range observations of a glowing object, while others focused on distant lights moving silently through the forest canopy. An official memorandum was later filed, documenting radar readings, witness statements, and environmental details. However, the reports differed in timing and description, making reconstruction of events difficult. No physical evidence was recovered that could be independently verified. Explanations have ranged from misidentified lighthouses and astronomical objects to natural light phenomena. Some researchers suggest that stress, darkness, and unfamiliar terrain may have influenced perception. These theories explain certain elements, but do not fully account for all reported movements or the duration of the sightings. The Rendlesham Forest incident remains one of the most debated cases involving military witnesses. It raises questions about how official reports are interpreted and why some incidents resist simple explanation. No definitive conclusion has been reached, and the events remain unexplained.
Number 4. Belgium's repeated triangle sightings. The Belgian UFO wave was reported between 1989 and 1990, when residents across Belgium described large triangular objects moving silently through the night sky. According to witnesses, the objects displayed bright corner lights and a central glow, often hovering before drifting slowly or accelerating away. Reports came from civilians, police officers, and military personnel, creating an unusually broad range of observers over an extended period. What drew particular attention was the involvement of the Belgian Air Force, which confirmed that radar systems detected unknown targets during some of the sightings. Fighter jets were scrambled on multiple occasions, and pilots reported difficulty locking onto the objects as radar contacts appeared and vanished. These publicly acknowledged radar events distinguished the wave from many earlier reports that relied solely on eyewitness accounts. Possible explanations included experimental aircraft, misidentified helicopters, or atmospheric phenomena. Some researchers suggest that a combination of radar interference and human perception may have amplified the reports. However, these explanations have not fully accounted for the consistency of triangular descriptions or the simultaneous visual and radar observations documented at the time. The Belgian wave remains one of the most formally discussed European cases. It raises questions about how repeated sightings over months should be evaluated and why clear identification proved elusive despite military involvement. No definitive conclusion has been reached, and the origin of the objects remains unexplained. Number 5. Encounter over Alaska skies. The Japan Airlines Flight 1628 incident was reported in 1986 when the crew of a cargo aircraft flying over Alaska described multiple unidentified objects pacing their plane at high altitude. According to the captain and crew, the objects appeared unusually large, emitted bright lights, and maneuvered in ways that did not resemble known aircraft. The sighting occurred during a routine flight and was communicated to air traffic control in real time. Ground-based radar systems reportedly detected anomalous returns in the same general area, adding a layer of technical data to the eyewitness testimony. The crew described one object as maintaining position relative to the aircraft, while another appeared to move rapidly across the sky before disappearing. No aggressive behavior was reported, but the prolonged nature of the encounter made it difficult to dismiss as a brief visual illusion. Investigators later considered explanations such as distant military aircraft, atmospheric reflections, or astronomical objects. Some researchers suggest that radar clutter or unusual weather conditions may have influenced the readings. However, these interpretations did not fully address the consistency between cockpit observations and radar reports. The incident drew attention because it involved commercial aviation and experienced flight personnel. Despite reviews by aviation authorities, the event has not been officially explained. It raises questions about how rare aerial observations are assessed within civilian airspace. No definitive conclusion has been reached, and the encounter remains unexplained. Number 6. Unidentified radar targets.
The Washington, D.C. radar incidents were reported in 1952 when military radar operators detected unknown targets repeatedly appearing near the nation's capital. According to official records, these objects were tracked over restricted airspace, prompting concern due to their proximity to sensitive government and military locations. Civilian and military pilots were dispatched and later reported seeing unusual lights corresponding to the radar returns. The targets were described as moving at varying speeds, sometimes hovering, sometimes accelerating beyond what was typical for known aircraft of the era. Radar operators noted that the objects appeared, disappeared, and reappeared in patterns that were difficult to predict. The events occurred over several nights, increasing public attention and media coverage at the time. Authorities later suggested temperature inversions as a possible explanation, a meteorological effect known to create false radar images. While this theory accounted for some radar anomalies, it did not fully explain the simultaneous visual sightings reported by pilots. Some researchers suggest that a combination of atmospheric effects and misinterpretation may have contributed, though gaps remain. The Washington incidents remain among the most discussed radar-related cases in U.S. history. They raise questions about how early radar systems interacted with atmospheric conditions and how much uncertainty surrounded airspace monitoring at the time. No definitive conclusion has been reached, and the events remain officially unexplained.
Number 7. Infrared anomaly off Chile. The Chilean Navy FLIR footage was recorded in 2014 when a naval helicopter crew observed an unidentified object off the coast of Chile using infrared imaging equipment. According to official statements, the object was tracked visually and with onboard sensors as it moved steadily through the air, emitting a heat signature inconsistent with known aircraft at that distance. The encounter was reported by trained military personnel during a routine patrol. The infrared footage shows the object releasing a trail that appeared warm in thermal view,
prompting debate over whether it represented exhaust, vapor, or another atmospheric effect. Analysts noted that the object maintained flight characteristics that were difficult to match with commercial aircraft, drones, or weather balloons under the same conditions. At the same time, no sudden accelerations or extreme maneuvers were clearly documented. Chilean authorities later released the footage publicly, stating that internal reviews considered multiple explanations, including distant aircraft, atmospheric distortion, and sensor limitations. Some researchers suggest that infrared data can be misleading without precise distance and altitude measurements. These factors complicate attempts to identify the object with certainty. Despite years of analysis, the footage has not been officially explained. The case raises questions about how advanced imaging systems interpret unfamiliar targets and where the limits of current identification methods lie. No definitive conclusion has been reached, and the object remains classified as unexplained.
Number 8. The Exeter Night Encounter. The Exeter incident was reported in 1965 when police officers and local residents in rural New Hampshire described a bright, silent object moving low over fields and roads late at night. According to witnesses, the object emitted a pulsating red light and traveled slowly, changing direction with apparent control. Multiple police officers observed the phenomenon separately, later confirming similar details in their reports, which added weight to the initial claims. The object was said to hover briefly before drifting away, maintaining a steady altitude and producing no engine noise. Some witnesses followed it by car, watching as it crossed open farmland in wooded areas. Radar confirmation was not publicly documented, leaving the case dependent on visual testimony and official police statements. At the time, the incident attracted attention due to the involvement of trained law enforcement observers, rather than a single civilian report. Explanations such as military exercises, aircraft, or astronomical objects were suggested, yet none fully accounted for the object's slow speed, low altitude, and silent movement. Weather balloons were also proposed, but their typical behavior did not align with the reported directional changes. As a result, the phenomenon has not been officially explained. Decades later, the Exeter incident remains a reference point in discussions about credible eyewitness observation. It raises questions about how unusual aerial events are categorized and why some reports resist clear classification. No definitive conclusion has been reached, and the encounter continues to exist as an unresolved observation. Number 9. Daylight Encounter at Westall. The Westall School event was reported in 1966 when students and teachers described an unusual object appearing above a suburban schoolyard in Melbourne during daylight hours. According to witnesses, the object was seen descending, hovering briefly, and then moving away with controlled motion that did not resemble conventional aircraft. The sighting occurred during a class break, resulting in dozens of independent observations from different vantage points within the school grounds. Several accounts described the object as metallic or disc-like, while others focused on its erratic but deliberate movement. Some witnesses reported a sudden departure at high speed, while others recalled a gradual ascent. No single description has been universally accepted, and memory variations over time complicate later analysis. Official records from the period are limited, and no comprehensive investigation was conducted immediately after the event. Alternative explanations have been proposed, including experimental aircraft, weather balloons, or misidentified aerial activity. However, these suggestions have not addressed all aspects of the reported behavior, particularly the prolonged visibility and apparent maneuverability. The event remains unexplained, largely due to the absence of physical evidence and the passage of time. More than half a century later, the Westall School event continues to raise questions about how collective eyewitness experiences are evaluated, and why some incidents fade without resolution. No definitive conclusion has been reached, leaving the observation suspended between memory, documentation, and uncertainty.